I mean, when you say sex friends, which is kind of a funny term, but it is really what it is. And actually that strengthens those friendships quite a bit. We have great experiences doing that. And actually me still being in the city, some of my best friends here kind of we began hooking up actually. And then like that friendship really strengthened, and then maybe the hookup part fell away, but.
Welcome to Normalizing Non-Monogamy, the podcast where we interview incredible people from across the entire spectrum of non-monogamy to hear their fascinating stories. We strive to bring guests on the show who have a healthy approach to non-monogamy. However, it's important to remember that everyone does it a little bit differently, and the views and opinions expressed by our guests do not necessarily reflect our own.
Additionally, we produce this show for entertainment purposes only. Please be aware that we aren't doctors or therapists. Consult the medical professional for anything regarding your health that you might learn about on the show. Enjoy!
Well, welcome to episode 124.
Take 2.
We're Finn and Emma.
The first one was a total train wreck.
We messed up a few things. Today we have an interview with Michelle and Steve. They have an amazing story, and they have been exploring non-monogamy for a little while in their relationship.
Pretty much since the beginning.
Yeah.
And they were supposed to get married the day before we interviewed them.
I know.
The day before Easter, and then, well, coronavirus.
Right.
So one of them is stuck in Europe, and one of them is on the East Coast, and we were on the West Coast, and it was, we had a good Easter. We had an Easter ham with them.
I forgot we did record this.
We did an Easter egg hunt, a virtual Easter egg hunt. So who knew that that's what they were going to get when they signed up for an interview?
That's true. But anyway, we have a couple quick announcements before we jump into the show, as usual. Our first is that our next Patreon Q&A call is tonight, May 13th, 9 p.m. Eastern, and again at 9 p.m. Pacific. We never do them in Central Time.
Yeah, I don't want to do a take 3. Come on, let's pull it together. Rally.
If you're in Central Time, you can figure out what time you need to join based on the Eastern and the Pacific. Oh my gosh. We would love to have you all join us for that. So if you're interested, go check out our website, normalizingnonmonogamy.com, click on the Patreon page, and hop on over and join us for our Q&As.
Yeah, it's been a great way for us to build community and stave off the isolation, the social isolation that we've been struggling with. And I think everybody's been getting a lot out of it. So we hope that you, if you're listening and you're one of the Patreon people, that you are getting that, and thank you. And if you're not, think about joining. It's a lot of fun, and we would love to have you.
We've also started a women's group with our Patreon supporters, so please, we'd love to have you join that as well. So go check it out.
The other exciting news is you may have heard us mention that we're doing a virtual meet and greet.
And we are.
It's not a rumor.
May 28th from 9 to 11 p.m. Eastern. We will be doing a virtual Zoom meet and greet.
Yep. The way that we're going to do this, and we tested this a couple weeks ago with our Patreon group, is we bring everybody together in one big group, and then we break people out into individual rooms and talk about a question. We give you a fun question, like if you were stuck on a desert island and could only bring one item, what would it be?
Right.
Not necessarily that exact question, but something like that. And then you all talk about it. And then about 5 minutes later, we bring everybody back together. We scramble the rooms and we do it again.
Yeah. So it's $10, and we would love to have all of you join us. To sign up, go to our website, normalizingnonmonogamy.com, and go to the events page and sign up.
And while you're there, check out the resources page for all your non-monogamy needs, resource needs, tools needs.
All of it. Or contact us.
Contact us. That's even better. While you're there, reach out to us on the Contact Us page. Send us a voicemail. We'll send you one back. It'll be personalized. That's how we actually got in touch with Michelle and Steve. Michelle sent us a voicemail, and I think we went back and forth like 17 times.
Not that many, but
like 13 times. And so it works, people.
Yeah. So anyway, go check out our website. And now let's go talk to Michelle and Steve. Nice sound
That was
effects.
my airplane. We were on an airplane.
That was perfect.
I thought so. All right.
Well, this is one of our first recordings from multiple continents.
3 different locations.
Yeah. Welcome, Michelle and Steve. We're excited to have you here.
Thank you for having us. We're very excited to be here.
Yeah.
Happy to be here.
Yeah, it's exciting. And actually, we're recording this on Easter Sunday.
Yes.
One day after what was supposed to be your wedding, but coronavirus be damned, you couldn't do it. that sucks. And we're so sorry to hear that.
Oh, we'll do it again. No problem.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and this is just like a wedding, basically.
Right. Like coming in the show, it's the same as
I feel celebrated. So
Yeah. Well, everybody will send their wishes, and we appreciate you being here. So thank you. And maybe for the listeners, do you mind introducing yourselves? Who are Michelle and Steve?
Sure. I'm Michelle, 30 years old, currently in Eastern Europe for work. And I've been in a relationship with Steve for almost 2 years. And I guess that's it for now.
Okay.
More to come.
I'm Steve. I'm from Los Angeles originally. As Michelle said, we've been together for 2 years now, and we've been doing long distance since our jobs kind of shifted us from being in the same place. So she's stuck in Eastern Europe, and I'm somewhere on the East Coast now, and we're doing our best to make it work in the time of plague.
Yeah, no, it's not an easy time, but props to you both for making it work. So yeah.
Doing our best.
Yeah, and when you reached out, you said that you guys have started exploring non-monogamy fairly recently. And maybe, do you mind talking a little bit about like what your dynamic is today? And then maybe we can go back in time to how it all started.
Yeah. So maybe starting with what it is today, as you said, it's evolved recently, and I would say it's continuing to evolve. But for now, we are together, obviously. I have a girlfriend here in the city where I am. And Steve has seen a few women as well where he is, since we've been apart almost 6 months now. But we're talking all day, every day together. And it's been interesting.
So my journey in non-monogamy started before I met Michelle. I went through a bunch of different phases of relationships. I got married super young, divorced super young, because of course that happens. And then I felt like I discovered some cheat codes in the non-monogamy sector when I just said what I thought all the time and didn't make excuses for feelings and took people at face value. And it turns out that was just a much easier way to live. So when we met in Eastern Europe, she thought I was an absolute crazy person saying that, well, I like you, but I want to sleep with you, but I also sleep with these other people. Do you want to meet them? And that was a little bit of a shock for everybody.
So the cheat code was honesty.
Just communicating. It sounds like a platitude, but it's true.
Yeah, that's fun. All right.
Yeah.
And on your side, Michelle, when that happened, I mean, that was your first exposure to anything like this?
Yeah. I was telling, my good friends, my open-minded friends, that I met this crazy person. And I didn't think there's any way it would last, but that I had just had to soak it up because it seemed unbelievable. Kind of this, I don't know, this openness. I never met someone so honest. So I was very intrigued by that. And I was open to kind of meeting the other women that he was seeing in the city. And I must say that went poorly most of the time. I usually end up getting upset or even angry at him. But so, yeah, that was a ride. I did maybe, I would say around 8 of those meetings. And then I think I said that we should stop doing that because it's not going well. But it's an interesting experience. I mean, you get to meet a lot of different people, I suppose, and get close to different people. And that's, I think, a huge positive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So to be clear, Michelle, like you had never even thought of non-monogamy or anything related to that prior to before you met Steve, right?
Correct. Yes. I think I had my first girlfriend when I was 15, so I knew I was bi, but I had always been in monogamous relationships, and those always went somewhat poorly. Like even when they were long-term, there was some cheating involved on both sides, unfortunately. So I was more than interested when I heard about this open relationship that Steve was in. And when I met him, he had a longtime girlfriend in Washington, D.C. And I was seeing some other people in the city where we were in. And that was just, that concept itself was, interesting to say the least. And I had to know more about how that worked or if that worked.
Right.
And I was really excited to meet the girlfriend at the time as well. And we did have that meeting in another city in Europe. And that was also an interesting experience.
Terrible. Yeah.
So
it wasn't great. It wasn't great.
So it hasn't been good meeting the metamors, so to speak.
Right. Well, and the problem was for a long time, I considered myself, I read the literature, I studied the secret code that everybody in the non-monogamy arena speaks in, the poly taxonomy. And I figured, I saw myself as having this identity, really absorbing it. And the problem was that when I met Michelle, we bonded so quickly and so much more intensely than I had ever experienced previously. And I think that the reason so many of my other relationships fell away and so many of those meetings went poorly was just because they could see there was an obvious distance in the way that I maintained relationships with everybody else, but no distance with the way that I maintained with Michelle, because it was so quick and so powerful. And that kind of shifted the identity to me being more monogamish, I guess, or us being like collectively open, as a team sport, but not really independent projects like I was doing before.
Right. Yeah, because originally it sounded like you had maybe a long-term girlfriend, but then lots of other women that you were seeing maybe in a more casual sense. And it sounds like, when you met Michelle, you
right. Yeah, exactly. We clicked together very quickly. We had shared values. I was obviously very attracted to her, and the time we spent together just flew by. It was unbelievable. It wasn't like anything I'd ever experienced before. So my kind of like assumed identity melted away or got whittled down to something more communal now with her.
And how did that journey from your independence to now a collective unit with her, and then also at the same time she's learning about non-monogamy for the first time, like that's a lot of worlds colliding at once.
That was so intense, that time period. I mean, every day seemed to be just full of emotions, and we're never being able to focus at work, this sort of thing, specifically because he had this long-term girlfriend he was very committed to, and kind of having this identity that he was very open about and convinced of, maybe I can say, that it's able to love two people equally, and there's not one above the other. And so I was really kind of trying to grapple with that and understand that and kind of my place then in it, because I guess I felt jealous, sure. And also I didn't have anything on my side. And then, so how I'm giving all of my, maybe 100%, not that that's true or how it is, but how I felt at the time to, maybe if I was receiving less than that, or maybe I should also have someone then. And that lasted for a long time, maybe a year, 8 months.
8 months, I would say. Yeah.
So originally, Michelle, you didn't have any other partners. You were, I guess what you're explaining, right, is you were giving basically 100% into this relationship. And because he had another partner, he was giving back 50%. And maybe those weren't the exact percentages, but that was sort of the perception, was that it was, you were all in and he was 50.
And again, I had him, whatever, in my same city. So we were together all the time. And I guess just not feeling maybe, good enough, or these kind of maybe obvious feelings one would have, like, why aren't I good enough? Or it was, but he was always very honest about it. And I don't know, that was intriguing. And it worked until we all met, actually, I would say.
To clarify, I never told her she wasn't good enough. I wasn't honest about her not being good enough. That was not what was said at the time, just for the record.
No, did I make it seem like that? I did not mean to say that. No.
I was going to ask, when you met these other partners of Steve's, you said it didn't go well. And is that because, do you think, that there was jealousy, or more because on the other women's point of view, they were seeing the connection you two have, and that maybe you didn't, Steve, have that connection with them? Or I guess why didn't it go well at all?
Steve, you'll know more and you can continue on this, but my assumption is that these people were also kind of monogamous and focusing and working under that idea, and had never seen him with another woman. So maybe that kind of bubble didn't have to burst until then.
Yeah. I think this is a theme that I've heard in a couple of other of your guys' episodes. Non-monogamy conceptually sounds amazing to a lot of people. You get your freedom, you get to spend time with somebody, you get the physical attention that you want. But at the same time, when you're actually confronted with the reality of it, like, oh, my partner is sleeping with other people and there he or she is, oh my God, this is collapsing on me. I experienced that a bunch because, the casual relationships are casual to the extent that they're not really taking part in your life. And when you give them a window into your life, they often don't like what they see. And this can go, both ways for men and women.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So I'd say it didn't work mostly because of the other women, not necessarily you two didn't have a problem meeting these, it didn't impact your relationship.
No, and we did. I mean, we had some experiences that were worse than others, some that bordered on good or fine, I would say. It was just the way that we met was we were seeing each other casually. There was ambiguity inherent to the relationship. And because of that, I think both of us were kind of, circling each other, like, what does this mean? What are your intentions with me here? And because of that, it was hard to know where we stood with each other, and especially hard for Michelle to know where she stood with me. But I feel like I turned that around pretty quickly early in the relationship because I could tell this was something different. And so it wasn't a choice that I made to cut those other relationships for her benefit. It was just what happened naturally because this is now the thing that I want to be doing.
Right.
The relationship. You're a person, baby, not a thing, I promise.
Thanks for clarifying.
Well, and as you two kind of grew closer and stronger and that relationship started to sort of rise above the rest in a sense, I guess, how did you two then start to renegotiate non-monogamy within the new sort of dynamic you had?
I would almost say that part never changed. I mean, as far as maybe hooking up, because we had been doing that, or that's what we had been doing when we first met. And that part actually kind of never stopped the whole time we were physically together. And that's something, the part that we both really enjoyed. And so that was definitely a new thing for me, but an exciting thing and something that I also wanted to continue.
So hooking up with other people at the same time that you were together.
Correct. As a joint effort. Yeah.
Okay.
And it was bolstered by the fact that due to our location, we were kind of off the beaten path in Eastern Europe. And the friends that we had there, we just happened to fall in with a group of really fun, open-minded, sexual, adventurous people. So it wasn't a huge emotional toll to like go out all together at night and then see what kind of wacky adventures happen at the end of it. It was a pretty natural process. But as far as the emotional intimacy, that was really only shared between us from the very beginning. We were always emotionally kind of monogamous, but with lots of good, solid sex friends that didn't see themselves as more than that with us, which was convenient.
Yeah, that's a lot of people want to find that, I think.
Well, and this was one of the things that we wanted to mention coming on your guys' show was the characterization of couples like us as unicorn hunters and the pejorative that comes with that. It's something that we've struggled with. I don't know, baby, you can say more.
Well, I've been doing a lot of reading and listening recently, or since this began, actually. And yeah, that's a term that's obviously a very negative one. And then I'm questioning if we're doing this or if we act this way. And I've posed this question to Steve as well. But I think I don't think we're asking anything. I mean, when you say sex friends, which is kind of a funny term, but it is really what it is. And actually that strengthens those friendships quite a bit. We have great experiences doing that. And actually me still being in the city, some of my best friends here kind of we began hooking up actually. And then like that friendship really strengthened, and then maybe the hookup part fell away, but I don't know. It's been, I think, a really positive thing.
Right. Yeah. And I think with the unicorn hunting, and this is something that we've talked actually to quite a few different people about, because I think the reason it oftentimes is a negative is when people, let's say a man and a woman, right, are looking for another woman, and it's very much that they leverage their power as the couple over the other person, right? And that it's, well, you're our girlfriend. You can't go out and see other people. When we want you, you come calling, that right. Sort of piece of it. But if this other person is treated as an equal and has their full autonomy to do as they wish, and you guys are friends and it's very like open and honest, I don't personally see an issue with that. And I know that there's probably people listening that say, well, you don't get to decide that because how can you tell somebody else that you're providing that
you're not
to
in
them?
That position.
Yeah. So it is a very gray area, but I mean, if what you're looking for or what you found are other women who are really good friends and you guys have sex, like, to me, if everybody's happy and healthy and excited about it, I personally don't see an issue with it. And I don't know. So.
Well, and that's fantastic. This is what I prefer to hear, but I don't know. In my adventures throughout the non-monogamy and poly worlds, I have run into like not a little bit of snobbery about these things. There's a certain sense of superiority that comes along with some of these poly and non-monogamous relationships, that people think that they're the next fucking evolution. Oh, sorry. Can I swear on the show?
Yeah.
Can I?
You can definitely swear.
Sorry. I think they're like the next evolution of humanity, and anybody who isn't doing it their exact way is bad. And the unicorn hunting label is one of the easiest ones. And it's one we've heard about ourselves from other poly couples in the past too.
Right. Well, and maybe to build on it and clarify a little bit, what you two, I guess what it looks like for you guys, right? It sounds like has been, you go out with a group of friends and whoever ends up together that evening. And that at the end of the day, or maybe the next morning after pancakes, you two are the two that wind up back together. And that is sort of the dynamic.
Or at least it was when they were together.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like
physically
I would say, together.
Correct. Yeah. I mean, I would say we were always very laid back about it. You know, we'd had friends that stayed entire weekends with us. You know, we'd go out Friday night and they'd be there till Sunday. We had friends that get sick and we'd take care of them until they were better, not trying to molest them sexually during the whole thing. You know, there was a sense of community in the sex friends that we had, and everybody knew each other, and the parties were obviously, you know, a lot of times they were bigger than the three of us. There'd be four of us, five of us, whatever it was. And it was always just a fun, very sexual atmosphere that we created, but it was also super reassuring and supportive and very female centric, because Michelle is always about supporting her fellow women.
Yes, but also very unplanned. And I think that should be something stressed too. And also it's kind of a lot of a first experience for a lot of people. I mean, no one, me included, expected that. So somehow it was a very like fun, new, freeing, like sexually free, empowered space, which was a really cool new experience for a lot of people, me included in that. But I think we all treated each other as well as possible and took good things from it. So that was a really fun time.
Yeah. Have you, I mean, maybe flipping the script a little, have you ever, Michelle, been the unicorn that was hunted in a sense, or has it largely been on
No one can see your air quotes.
I know, but they're there.
No, I have not. And I question why not, why I have not been asked. Growing up in the Midwest for some reason, as a bi girl for a long time. No, I'm only slightly saddened by this, obviously. But I'm curious what I don't know, or how that would be these days. It seems so easy as well on Tinder and whatever other apps or programs. But no, I have not. No, but
she's frustrated about that.
I was going to say, it seems like something that you would be open to.
Yeah, it does, doesn't it? But yeah, but the dynamic is good now. But actually, I guess my first threesome ever was with a boyfriend younger, and he invited a girl into the bedroom, and we broke up quickly after that because he was surprised and negatively so with our interest in each other.
What? Shocked Pikachu face.
Yeah.
Well, then maybe to build on that though is the question of, if as the person who could potentially be a unicorn, what is it that you would be looking for to help ensure the equality, so you didn't feel the hunted or feel sort of objectified by a couple that was looking to include you?
Yeah, I think it's a perspective we try to have, actually, because I don't think that we ask very much, but usually, they're built on friendship. So it's always the offer to go out or go, meet for drinks or come back later, if, always very optional. But we usually have fun.
So during the experiences, Michelle is always, if we meet somebody at a bar, often we'll go out with our friends or go out by ourselves for drinks. If we meet somebody at a bar who's cool and good conversation, the fact that we're in an open relationship comes out pretty quickly. I wouldn't say that we force it. It's not that we don't introduce ourselves and then say we're in an open relationship. But it's hard to talk about like our past experiences and places we've lived without mentioning that like we've had these crazy adventures all over Europe and other parts of the world. So once that's out there and we sense curiosity on somebody else's part, we always want to make sure like, we're not specifically hitting on you. We're just chatting right now. But if you're curious, we're happy to answer the questions. And I think that's enough validation to put a lot of people at ease, because a lot of that sense that they're being hunted or that they're being seduced outright by this couple can be kind of overwhelming. And we never want to put anybody in that weird sort of position.
Right. And so you were gonna say something as well, Michelle.
Yeah. Well, I do think there's a fun line actually somehow and we're still working on it. But like with being open about like I guess our open relationship, and also seeming like we're coming on. I feel like sometimes people can take it that way, and that's never our intention, and it kind of makes me feel icky too. But the thing I want to say before with having friends, something, and that me emphasizing that it was a good experience, but also we kind of struggled sometimes with having those friends then kind of expect us to hook up at the end of the night every time. Which is funny because that should be the goal, but sometimes it can be such a homebody, or sometimes we just want like couple time too, and then that was also interesting to navigate.
Yeah, and sometimes you may just not want to, like exactly what you said, like you're just not feeling it or just not interested, but you loved having the conversation, but it doesn't necessarily have to go the next step.
Exactly. Yeah. And there was one.
Go ahead.
I was going to say there's one incident recently where we got literally chased around a bar by a girl who was like, "You hook up with other people, you're going to hook up with me. This is happening tonight." And we had to literally flee the bar because she was being so aggressive with us, which is not a bad problem to have, but it's funny.
Was that the engagement night?
That was indeed the engagement night. Yeah, that was
our engagement.
Yeah.
So you were unicorn hunted, is what you
Yes. We were hunted by the unicorn. Indeed, they got horns. They're scary. Yeah. Yeah. The night that we got engaged, I was going to tell the story. The night that we got engaged, Michelle set up this wonderful surprise party. She got upwards of 50 of our friends together to surprise me, and she tricked me all at every point of the process. It was my going away from where we were living. It was around the time that I would be leaving. So she told everybody that, Steve is leaving, come out. We're also going to get engaged. So everybody knew this was happening for weeks before I ever did. And she tricked me to wear a suit. She's like, "Let's dress up. It's a fun night. You should put on a suit. You should get a haircut. You should, I don't know, maybe just think about it." Like she got me prepped for this whole thing, and then proposed to me in front of 50 of our friends. And it was a really, really sweet occasion. And then everybody got very, very drunk. And there were some out of town friends of friends there that heard that we were also kind of sex weirdos on the side. And they were there with us all throughout the latter half of the night. After we just got engaged, it seemed in poor taste.
I guess also looking back on that in the future, we could also be more vocal about, it'll just be a us night. But learning.
We should have announced it to the crowd. You're right.
As part of the engagement, as part of the proposal.
Yeah. And in their defense, we had slept with like 30% of the people at our engagement parties. They can be excused on that front.
Honey.
It was like 26%. Come on, Steve.
No. Well, good job, Michelle. It sounds like you rocked that surprise.
Thanks. It's fun.
Sounds very thoughtful.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and maybe moving away from, we don't have to dwell on the unicorn hunting thing. I think it is good to hear, though, how you approach it and that you are very conscientious about it. And I think this is something else, too, where people are going to make mistakes. And I'm sure you probably have, and I'm sure you probably will, right? But if, as you're navigating this, you're very aware of the dynamic, and you try not to exercise that like, well, thanks for coming over, but it's time for us to go back to us now. So get out of our house, right? It's a very much more of an inclusive, friendly environment. And I think that's what's important about all that. So,
well, right. And one of the trends we've spotted in other couples that we've met that do kind of the same thing that we're doing is that a lot of them, not all of them, but a majority of the ones that we've met personally, they seem to substitute this sort of sexual dynamic as a personality. We want to make sure that we're being decent human beings to whoever we're with, in whatever capacity we're with them first, before we get to all the naked stuff, because we don't want to lose the sense of genuine connection that comes with putting sex before connection.
Right. Well, and so as you two have grown, has this largely continued to be the dynamic? I mean, although now you two are in separate countries, continents, do you see that being the dynamic when you're allowed to travel again and see each other?
Or how has that shifted?
Well, I hope it will continue to be, for sure. And we've, can I say that we have a joint Tinder? Is that?
Yeah, we do. We have a joint Tinder account.
Yeah. And so it's I don't know, that's kind of an easy way, if I can say, to like meet people. And we're not sleazy on it. I don't know. Some people are only showing one person and kind of like trying to slide that other person in at the very end. And all of our pictures are us together. So I don't, in our description as well. So hopefully that's obvious. Although one
I know your listeners can't see, but I can show you guys right here.
Yep, we can vouch for them. They're both in the photo.
Yes, they are.
Two for one.
And can you believe, with that picture, some woman in Istanbul thought that we were brother and sister, and we're kissing on each other in all of them. So that was a misunderstanding. I had to clarify.
This is a language issue.
Okay, that makes more sense. The language issue, okay, but still, from that picture, you don't look like brother and sister.
I should hope not, judging by the pose. But yeah,
right.
That's funny. So when you two are able to come back together, hopefully you can continue that. And while you're apart, how have you adapted and adjusted the dynamic to fit the current model?
Yeah, so there was someone that was a friend of ours, and I have continued to see her, and we've actually become closer. I would say girlfriend even. I've said girlfriend before. That has been a really nice way to spend time. She's super sweet to me. And Steve sees that also and is very supportive. And that means a lot. And that means a lot to have that. And also that he's supportive of that. And since he's also been...
Do you want to talk about the more complicating factors there? Because I think this is fertile ground for discussion.
Yes. So, so the girl I'm seeing here, it's become more complicated because we were all together and kind of, I assumed everyone was on the same page, and in the future, for sure, I will check in more often. But it turns out that she does not have fond feelings for Steve. And that's made it quite awkward and difficult to manage. And Steve continues to be supportive because he sees this as a good thing for me and is very compassionate and patient. But it's been something that I struggle with for sure, trying to manage that and then not wanting to withhold any information, still be honest, and still be me. And kind of, I don't know, at one point it seemed like juggling. Yes, now there's some sort of understanding, and I understand that her perspective, and that I can be there, I don't know, for her still, and still have the feelings I do towards Steve and that relationship.
So it's almost shifted to more of a polyamory sort of dynamic where you have a primary, but also sort of a secondary partner as well. I guess, yeah. I was wondering if somebody would ask me if I was polyamorous. I never intended to be, because we had always intended to be kind of emotionally exclusive, but definitely feelings were caught there, and they are there. And I would answer that question as maybe I'm acting polyamorously. I don't know if I feel that as an identity. But that is, my situation now.
Mm-hmm. On your end, Steve, how have at the beginning, you mentioned that you've seen a couple people as well since you're separated. How has that gone?
So initially, I didn't want this time apart. We were only supposed to be apart for about 5 months, and that has now been extended to, we expect about 7 when this all, comes back together. We're hoping, when the airports open back up. But we didn't intend for me to see anybody without Michelle present, without her participating physically, being here, because it just seemed like less risk. It seemed like less risk of complication and risk of somebody being left on their continent feeling out of touch and non-participatory in their relationships. And it really wasn't that big of an ask. I have plenty of work. I do have a pretty serious job in my professional life, so it's not hard to distract myself with that. But with Michelle catching feelings, as she said, for her girlfriend over there and spending more time, and I think seeing that time can be spent and it can be a healthy, supportive thing, even to like care about somebody else and connect emotionally as well as sexually. I think that's prompted her to encourage me to experiment and make new friends over here and try to spend the time more socially. It's had mixed results. It's been pretty good the few times that we've done it. And the girls that I've seen over here are all aware of everything. We do video chats, video happy hours. And then, so they get to see and interact with Michelle, and it gives it a sense of normalcy, I think. But at the same time, if, it's a bad day in Eastern Europe, then some of the negative thoughts about me spending time with other women can creep in on her side. And similarly for me, some of the negative thoughts about Michelle's girlfriend can creep in for me too. So, it's a spectrum. There are amazing days where we can tell each other all the nasty details of the sex we did the night before. And there are other days where we feel kind of weird about it and we have to have like a more emotional talk about what we're going through. It's kind of up in the air. And being under lockdown, under such concentrated attention is also contributing to that a lot, I think.
Right. That doesn't necessarily help the situation.
Right. Yeah. I do have roommates and they are very confused by what's happening because they've met my fiance before. And then they're seeing a lot of other women traipse through the house, and I don't think they understand what's going on.
Have they asked you, or like, have you broached that topic with them? Or are they
no, they're far too polite. They're far too polite to ask.
Oh no!
He must be starting a business, I guess. I don't know.
So I said we would move on from the unicorn hunting, but I think
but now you're bringing it back.
I think it's a perfect. So something that came up since I said that was that I think a lot of times where the couple exercises their couple privilege would be in exactly the situation where the woman has another. Potentially in this example, right? So Michelle has a girlfriend and it would be very easy for Steve to say, well, hey, it's getting too serious. She doesn't necessarily like me. You have to cut that off. And I think that's where people would look at this and say, that's the thing that's wrong with this is he's going to say, nope, it's us, cut her out because she's threatening us. And it sounds like it's been very much the opposite, that even though there aren't the strongest, fondest feelings mutually, right? That you're like, hey, this is good for you. You keep doing your thing. I'm super supportive. And yeah, I guess I wanted to circle back because I saw that as maybe the crux of the unicorn hunting issue and that you guys got slapped in the face with it pretty hard. And it sounds like you're navigating it.
We are. I mean, it's easy for me to see that even if the girlfriend isn't a huge fan of me, I've heard her reasoning for it. I think she's factually wrong, but I do get the sentiment. I get what she's feeling and I understand where it's coming from because she really has feelings for Michelle, and who wouldn't? I mean, she's beautiful. She's great. I have feelings for Michelle. I can empathize on that level, and she makes Michelle happy. The time they spend together is always well spent. And I don't see it as a threat. It could become that in the future, but I haven't, no behavior or instance has gotten to the point at this point that I feel like our emotional intimacy is threatened, but I'm also aware of it and on the lookout for it. So it could go that way in the future, but I don't see the reason now.
Yeah. And I mean, we do talk, you say we talk, have more emotional talk sometimes, specifically after maybe you've seen someone on your side. But I would say that we have emotional talks all the time. I feel like we're talking about feelings all the time. And it's great, actually. I don't know. There's 100% transparency, nothing I hide. Sometimes I use this phrase, like I just like throw up my feelings on you, Steve, which is what some people are into. Not us necessarily, but emotionally speaking, yes. And yeah.
Thank you for clarifying that.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. But I mean, he would be the first to know if something was really threatening us. So I hope that you feel safe in that position of knowing.
Yeah.
And we discussed this before we left too. Michelle was very good about asking for boundaries or rules or anything I wasn't okay with. And I did the same thing. And I think that kind of level setting discussion before we started spending significant amounts of time apart really made it easy to navigate. And I'm not saying it's easy. I'm saying it's manageable. And having a partner that, if I have a bad day and I'm feeling bad about her spending time with the girlfriend, I can just say it out loud. And then we talk about it. We figure out where that's coming from, and then it's gone. It's a nice balance I think we struck.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And I think it's great. And it's obviously a difficult situation to navigate, right? And that you kind of came at it from a very casual approach, and then it has, through circumstance, morphed maybe somewhat out of your control, but and that you two are embracing it and growing with it. And I guess, how have you seen it impact or bring either the two of you closer? Has it impacted your relationship positively, or has it also there been some drawbacks to it as well? And I know we've talked a little bit about that, but maybe just giving you the opportunity to talk about it a bit more.
Well, and to add to that real quick. You mentioned you did make a bunch of rules and boundaries at the beginning before you started spending time apart. Have those shifted or changed, or have you pretty much stuck to the same ones?
I would say like the situation has changed drastically. And then, so the rules and boundaries have, but when we were together, it was like almost everything go sort of thing, as long as our communication was there, and it always was. And I think a misconception maybe that some women specifically had was that Steve had the final say. So they would go up to him maybe and maybe start flirting and, not pay attention on my side, which of course is a no, because we are an us.
Yeah, this was a theme for us pretty consistently. Both men and women would approach me as sort of the gatekeeper of this relationship. If they wanted to participate sexually with us, they would come to me. And I think I understand the male inclination, because it's like, hey, we're bros. I guess we can, are we going to do this or what? It was really awkward for me when women would come to me instead of Michelle, and sort of ignore connecting with Michelle in favor of getting closer to me and getting me to give the sign off on them being with us sexually. I'm not saying it's a bad problem to have. I mean, I know I sound like I'm a martyr complex right now. All these women want to have sex with us and I have to sort them, but it's not that. It's more like we do want actual genuine friends. And it's really hard to start a genuine friendship, a sexual one or a platonic one off when it's so one-sided.
But speaking of like the rule specifically, I mean, I think it was kind of an unspoken rule. I don't think we ever really talked about it, but I was actually the one always making the yes or no at the end, always actually. And that provided me with a lot of security. And that was kind of like the unspoken rule, I suppose. And as far as it like bringing us closer, definitely, absolutely. And it's not all been women as well. Some men have kind of sprinkled in there too. But even when usually it's a great experience again. And you can always recall the bad ones, right? But even those, I mean, they did bring us closer because you learn so much from that as well. And then, we'll talk about it for forever. So then we'll know completely like what upset who, how we avoid it, and then move forward that way in a pretty logical way. Even if I try to go down the emotional tornado, Steve will pull me out on the path forward. So,
are there things that either of you have experienced because of your ability to explore this together that either A, you never thought in a million years you would get to experience, or B, that you never thought you would even be into until like it happened?
Yes.
You want to tell them about Berlin?
Yes. Sure. Let's see. So have you heard of Kit Kat?
The candy?
No.
Delicious candy.
Emma, do you know?
I've heard something about it, but I don't know exactly what it is.
Okay. It's a sex club in Berlin, a really big one. And it's, we kind of went on a whim when we arrived there once after kind of fancy dinner. Little did we know there was a dress code, which we barely made. It was leather, I guess. I had a leather skirt on, which is great. And Steve got by with I don't know what you say, boxers or
I don't know, leather-looking sport underwear is the best way I can describe how I squeezed through that doorway.
It was black and it passed. So we got in, and this was really incredible, and this was super eye-opening, and that happened pretty early on, maybe in the first couple months actually. So there was groups of people we were engaged with, and I mean this club, absolutely should go. There's a sauna, there's a pool, there's like a bar hangout area, different dance stages, a room of beds, and people being tied up. I mean, specific shows. And we met a lot of like other interesting people there, a lot of open-mindedness, of course. And we had a first guy there also, which I did not also realize that'd be something I was into, but was enjoyable experience for everyone. And was there more you want to say about it, Anne?
There was, talking about rules and the way things have been implemented. When we went into the sex club, you go to the coat check and everybody's naked. There's dicks out, tits out. It's amazing. It's great. Everybody's very liberal and free. And we kind of huddled before we went into the main area. Okay, we're here. This is happening. Let's make a promise to each other that we're not going to do anything separate from each other. We're going to be together and it's going to be fine. So we fell into a group that was traveling through. It was about 6 people, including the guy that we were with later on in the night, and a bunch of other young women that were also American. So we all wound up having a bit of a party with them, which was very fun. And then after that, everybody went to go dance, but somebody had to stay with the stuff. So I stayed with the stuff. I stayed with the purses, and I sat and sipped my drink and looked around at all the, the human safari that was around me. And while Michelle was off dancing, a young woman completely naked with a bunch of glow-in-the-dark body paint came over and sat in my lap and rubbed all over me. And she's like, "What is your fantasy?" And I was like, "Oh, my girlfriend's over there. I promise she'll be right back." So she gets bored and leaves, but I have body paint all over me now. And Michelle comes back and she says, "I leave you for 2 minutes. And what have you gotten up to?"
Now you glow in the dark too.
Indeed. Yes. Yeah.
That's awesome. I mean, Kit Kat, I love the name too. Like when you first said it, I swore there was an app that was named that, and maybe there is, and that's where I've heard of it. I don't know.
I'm sure there is. Yeah.
I think that's a cool club name. I did not know it was a club.
Yeah.
But
it was a wild time. Sorry.
And a fun addition to that story, though, is that we said we were going to stick together, but we're still relatively new then. And then me knowing that he had also said, no to someone because I was away also meant a lot at the time, actually. That was our first, I don't know. I can imagine be a very tempting experience. So that was.
Yeah, I think that's one thing that we've pointed out to people in the past is that the rules are oftentimes a really great way to build the trust. And if you can follow the rules typically start to fall away because people, they usually build the rules to make them feel safe. And once they understand that they are safe and that you are there to support each other and you're not there to try to skirt the rules, like the rules typically start to vanish slowly as time goes on. So I think that's a great point.
That's true. That's interesting. Sounds like us.
And the journey's been non-linear for us too. I mean, like you said, I think we've come at this kind of the opposite way that a lot of your other interviews have at least sounded like, the episodes that I've heard. I've heard a lot of stories of people being in monogamous relationships and then slowly opening up, taking baby steps that way. We started from a very sexually liberal position and kind of narrowed down to where we're at. So coming at it from the opposite way, it's nice. It's very, very reassuring to be on that journey, not taking steps away from freedom, but defining your freedom in a more narrow fashion and still being okay with it and with your partner. That's not something I had ever experienced before this relationship, and it's been a really, really fulfilling way to prosecute it. Definitely.
Yeah. No, I think that makes a lot of sense, and thank you for saying that because you're right. Like you have come at this a little bit different way than a lot of people out there.
Yeah. Yeah. And how do you two keep yourselves safe? I guess both sexually and physically, right? You're potentially people are potentially coming over that you don't maybe know them super well, or just like keeping yourself safe physically and sexually as you've explored this over the last couple of years together.
We've been pretty conscious of the fact that engaging with as many people as we do has an inherent risk to it. So we engage in safer sex to the extent possible whenever we can. We're always pretty honest with our partners. We don't hold really anything back from those dialogues. And we want people to be making an informed, intentional decision to be with us. So the safety aspect is kind of inherent in that. We're not typically given to just grabbing somebody from a bar and bringing them home. That does happen occasionally, but I wouldn't say it's our normal MO. Usually we do, have friendships, build friendships, and the people that we sleep with are actual friends by the time we get to that point. In instances where they're not, we take appropriate precautions. And we've never had a problem to date, in terms of sexual health or physical well-being, which is, we're grateful for that. But I don't think it's a very difficult issue to parse when you have communication as that first rule in the interaction. People can make their decisions informedly, and you wind up, if you're looking for connection, if you're looking for substance to somebody's personality, you really avoid a lot of other people that might have a flimsier definition of themselves or problematic definitions of sexual activity.
So safety we've also defined it just using consent as well, like everybody knowing what's happening. But I will say too, that's something I've been listening to on podcasts such as yours, and something that we're also considering how to do more also, because there are a lot of other options that aren't maybe obvious at first.
Such as, do you mind talking a little more about it?
Yeah, there's condoms, of course, but like there are other things too, if people want to engage in that. And that's not something that kind of we've heard from anyone we've been with, but I don't know, something I'm thinking about more too, because it is a serious topic. And yeah, again, we haven't had a problem yet. But
well, it sounds like you try to build up some level of trust with people that you are with. However, that's not fail-proof, right? So it sounds like both of you are considering it and figuring out the best ways to keep you're both safe.
Yes.
Right. Another kind of comical aspect of this is I got a vasectomy when I was quite young, when I was about 22, 23, because I didn't want kids. And that was like a very big ethical point for me. And it still is. I love talking about the ethics of reproduction and things like that with people that want to hear it. But when in the sexual context, when I say I have a vasectomy, like some guys get wild, like, oh, cool. And they assume that there's no protection required at that point, which we have to walk back sometimes in certain circumstances.
Like, that's not the only reason to wear a condom.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you have any, I know you've shared a handful of funny moments throughout this conversation, but we like to ask about bloopers. Like, has there been another funny moment or multiple that you'd want to share that basically shows that we're all human and that shit happens?
Can I tell them the story about fashing in Cologne?
Yeah.
This is a good one. So I guess this is relevant to the consent issue. Michelle and I were in Cologne, Germany for Fasching, which is like their Mardi Gras. They burn effigies in the streets and there's people drinking. It's crazy. It's a fun time. We matched with a young woman on Tinder at this point, and she was one of these. She wasn't a catfish. It was just a solo female profile that in conversation immediately became apparent that her boyfriend, husband, whatever would be coming with her, which not, disqualifying, but it's also not a great foot to lead off on, but whatever. We were out and we were having fun. We said, why not? So we met up with them and they were nice. He was quite reserved. He was really quiet and borderline awkward, but not bad. And it was obvious that she was driving this interaction. Like, she wanted group sex and he was tolerating this tendency of hers, but not exactly embracing it. So we hang out for a few hours. We see the effigy burn. We go to a gay club. We're dancing. We're having fun. Michelle and I huddle outside of the club and decide whether or not we're going to go through with the sex of that night, the main event. And we both kind of shrug. We're like, nah, I'm not really feeling it. I'm drunk. I'm tired. They're, borderline anyway. Let's call it. Let's not do it tonight. So then the girls huddle, Michelle and the girl from the other couple. Michelle says, you guys are great. We had a lot of fun, but we're not feeling it. We're just going to go home. And then what happens next, baby?
Right. So I think I phrase it more as like, it's not you. There's nothing wrong with you. And I think she took that very literally as being her, and maybe there's something wrong with him. So she tells him to kick it up a notch, apparently. So they come back in and, he picks me up immediately. He's twirling me around. I was like, that was a surprise, an unwanted surprise. She comes over to Steve, grabs his balls, talking nasty in your ear. So that was a bit of an overload. And so we look at each other. I think we throw some euros down, grab our stuff, forget my favorite sweater. Sad part of the story. And we run away, just run, kind of bolt for it. And I think we run behind this truck. We have a cigarette there. We hop into another bar and kind of just wait until we know that we've fully escaped. But it seemed like there was no other option almost. There's no for an answer. And something to be learned from that.
Yeah, they were not taking your no.
Yeah, kind of communication breakdown.
Yeah.
We did have another incident with a very good sex friend of ours that we're still friends with to this day. She had a party at her house, and we ended up sleeping over with her and had a great night. And everybody had been very, very drunk by the end of the night. And as happens when you get that drunk, our friend had wet the bed and then proceeded to try to blame us for it.
Wow, I forgot about that.
And that made that friendship awkward for a few weeks thereafter until she finally admitted, like, yeah, you're right, it's probably me.
Oh, no.
Wow.
Because in a one-on-one interaction, it has to be one person. But if there's three people in the bed, you can blame whoever you want. Take a pick.
Maybe it was all three of you. I mean, it could have been.
One could hope that would be a beautiful shared experience. In that case.
Wait, Michelle, did you ever get your sweater back?
No, I did not. I've tried to replace it, but it's just impossible.
It's a donation to the gods of non-monogamy.
No, but that I can relate because it's just frustrating when you lose something like that. And then in that situation, you're like, I was already upset about it all. And then it's that on top of it.
Yes. I'm cold.
As dumb as it sounds. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, is there anything that we didn't talk about that you two really wanted to share and get out in the world about yourselves or your story or non-monogamy? And before we let you get along with your Easter Sunday?
Michelle wrote a list.
Oh, well, I think we covered most everything. I'm a list maker.
Me too. It's all good.
But I think the way we're talking about it sounds so like, I don't know, like crazy party people, like, I don't know, crazy nights. And then we have had that for sure. But also now it seems so like controlled and I don't know, a sense of like a normalcy, especially what's going on in my side. It's like, nothing, I don't know. It's not like all flashlights. It's kind of like a very like consensual way forward where it's like a sharing of time and feelings in kind of a more, I don't know, sweet way, maybe.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And for anybody else that's dabbling in this or trying it or has a casual relationship that they would like to make more serious without losing that sort of sexually free aspect of it, it's totally possible. I mean, we did it. Non-monogamy can't just be two separate people doing whatever the hell they want whenever they want to do it. It requires some commitment, compromise, and understanding. But if you're willing to take the time to do it, it can turn out well for us. And had the coronavirus not hit, we'd be married yesterday as living proof of it.
Right. Yeah. So something else that I was maybe curious if we can touch on really quick is the ubiquity of non-monogamy or casual sex or group sex in maybe Eastern Europe and Europe in general, right? It sounds like you have traveled quite a bit throughout Europe. And just in your experience, what have you found in terms of people being open about this? And
because people we have talked to that have experience in Europe say it's very different from the States and other cultures. So I'm sure it also varies depending on what country you're in.
I have lots of thoughts on that. Can I take it, Michelle?
Yes, please.
So being where we were in Eastern Europe, it was a very religious, very conservative society. But we as Americans existed, just as foreigners in general, I guess, we existed in this kind of like separate bubble. Meaning if a young person or anybody, I guess, in the society wants to engage in some of these non-standard sexual emotional practices or lifestyles, if they do that, the people that they engage with are going to know their uncles, cousins, brothers, aunts, sisters. It's a very connected society, but we existed outside of that. So we, with our kind of wacky identity and we weren't shy about who we were. It was very attractive to a lot of people. And it reinforced my assumption that, I would say the majority of the human population is curious about the kind of things that we do and the kind of things that you guys talk about on your show. They just don't have the social space to explore it. But give somebody the opportunity and give them a sense of security and acceptance within that, and the conversations you have and the people that you meet are really going to surprise you. So in a conservative place like we were, we met plenty of people with way more open minds than they were probably allowed to express otherwise with people from their own town, culture, country.
Yeah, you were almost a safe haven, right? You were a world inside of a world that they could step in and out of as almost some respite from that. Mm-hmm. So that's fascinating. Yeah.
Well, and at the end of the day, we're using like very high-minded language to describe this. At the end of the day, everybody wants to have fun. Everybody wants to hang out, be casual, and everybody wants to get laid and have sex. And if you can offer a caring, supportive environment to do that, where nobody feels judged and they can have exactly whatever they want, it's pretty enticing.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Yeah. I'm curious what your thoughts are on it, Michelle, as well. I know you've been experiencing it maybe a little bit longer and a little bit different now too, that you're there on your own.
Yeah, it does change the dynamic quite a bit, but I'm still really involved in, I would say we also had a strong connection with the LGBTQ community. They were also kind of like underground here. definitely not supported, but still wanted to go out and party. And we kind of got close to that community somehow. And I still feel that closeness, which is really nice. The friends we made as a couple are still my close friends, which is great. Yeah. And I never dabbled in anything like this or ever thought I would, growing up in the Midwest and living there and then coming straight to Europe and other places abroad. But I definitely think more open-minded here, and it's fantastic. All my close friends here are really open-minded. I imagine in the cities we go, there are so many different opportunities and different people to meet and funny characters. And that's a huge plus, I think, of this maybe way of living. Sounds quite dramatic, but yeah. And something that Steve earlier, that's something, we did it, but I think we're also continuing to do it because we choose to do it. And it's also evolving. And that's something exciting too, looking forward, like knowing that these new relationships maybe with other people will form and be added in some way, or just new experiences we will have, or maybe we'll take time to focus on each other more. And I imagine that will come in different waves. And knowing all of that too is thrilling.
Yeah. It's exciting.
Yeah.
Super exciting. Thank you both for sharing with us and taking the time to talk to us and being honest and open about everything. We appreciate it. And we love hearing the stories.
Yeah, we're so happy you reached out to us too.
Yeah.
And every story is a little bit different. And that's what we love about doing the show. And it was amazing to have both of you come on and share.
Yeah.
Thank you guys. Appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, have a wonderful Easter, and we will be in touch.
Yes.
Okay.
That's good. Thank you.
Bye, guys.
And we're back.
Oh,
I thought that was supposed to just be a Monday thing.
I know, but it was also because we just flew to Eastern Europe.
So you should do the sound back.
Wouldn't it be the same sound?
Yeah, but we have to come back. Thank you to Michelle and Steve.
I wish I could make the seatbelt ding.
You can try.
Nailed it.
Thank you so much to Michelle and Steve for reaching out to us and coming on the show and being vulnerable and sharing their story. We really had a great time talking to you, and we hope everyone got a lot out of their fun story.
Yeah, and thank you for bringing up, some of the topics we talked about are sometimes a little controversial in the non-monogamy world, especially around the unicorn hunting. And so, again, thank you for talking about that and being willing to talk about it, because it's something that people are quick to judge on, and it was awesome to hear your perspective and how the two of you approach it. So thank you. And thank you for being ethical about it.
Yes. Next week, we have an interview with Laura and David.
This is the one we promised you guys a couple of weeks ago, and then we had to postpone it for unforeseen circumstances.
Yeah, so it's
technical difficulties.
It's an amazing story, and you definitely want to come back next week and listen.
And in the meantime, you can go over to normalizingnonmonogamy.com and reach out to us on our contact page, and you never know, you might just get an email back.
Actually, you definitely will.
We guarantee it 100% you will get an email back unless you put the wrong email address.
And then we can't email you back.
So if you email us and you don't hear back, it's because you goofed up. It's not our fault.
Right.
We pass the blame.
But anyway, yes, go to our website, join our Patreon, check out
come
the
to the Patreon tonight. We got a meet and greet tonight, or a Q&A tonight.
Sign up for the meet and greet in a few weeks. There's lots to do on our website. So we'd love to have you go check it out.
All right.
And I think that's it.
We will deplane.
Bye, everyone. Thanks for listening.